Previously on Tony and Kris. Now let's get to it. When somebody releases a record, sometimes they get lucky, and it's just
out of the gate.
Out of the gate, it's a classic. It's a debut single. That's you have a pressure on yourself at that point to say, how am I going to top the success of this
Yes.
song? But it's okay, so that's first on the agenda.
Yes.
We're going to jump into that in just a couple of seconds. We apologize that we had that power outage on the last show, but we're excited to get into those debut country singles. We're definitely going to want to hear from you about that.
And I found out about the power outage. We were too powerful.
Really?
Blew a circuit. It's too good of a show. So if you missed it, you need to go back and catch what you can.
Absolutely. We'll get it while it's hot. Also coming up, it's a day that we have long feared. They've been teasing us for a while now. Netflix looks like they're finally about to start cracking down on password sharing. What's going to happen, when it's going to happen, what you need to know, all coming up a little later on the show. Stay with us. Hello, welcome back. As we promised, we're going to dive right into that thing we didn't get to finish in the last show.
Yes.
The top debut country singles of all time.
Okay.
Now, as we said in that show, anytime there's a list, there's going to be an argument about where things should fall. We won't do all of these. Our friends at Taste of Country did this. There are 25. We'll zip through the first 10 or so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to do that whole list.
Yeah, we won't do it.
Because I don't believe there's that many.
I mean,
most artists, when they debut, especially in the country format, you get a song and it gets to top 30, 20 maybe, and it's like, okay, that's a successful launch.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, and then the next single's when the big one hits.
Yeah, very rarely are you lucky enough to catch that lightning in a bottle and have your first song be the one that, although then you're going to, some of the songs on this list, it's almost like a curse. If it's so big out of the gate, you start wondering, how am I going to top this? How do I possibly match that success? So let's get into this. We're going to zip through some real quick, and then we'll get into some longer conversations when we get to the top 10. Okay, so we're starting at the bottom. 25, Chris Janson, Buy Me a Boat. Maddie and Tay, Girl in a Country Song. I would say
that was number one, but have they done anything since then?
They've done some singles, and then they had that big one that we played to death for a while about something about Mama and the door was broken.
Oh yeah.
Tell Dad I can't. And it was a huge hit, and I've already forgotten the name of it.
Things about the red wine on a red dress or something. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so they've had a few there, but yeah, Girl in a Country Song, definitely big. Sugarland, Baby Girl.
Yes.
Cannot argue with that. I'm no fan of theirs, but man.
I think that song and Stay are what they're known for, those two songs.
Monsters. Diamond Rio, Meet in the Middle. Dierks Bentley, What Was I Thinking? Rascal Flatts, Praying for Daylight. Carly Pearce, Every Little Thing. I honestly forgot that was her debut single.
Was it her debut? Or is this like those CMA awards where they're like, Best New Artist, his 8th album? And
yeah, no, they say, in a way, putting it out was a risk. It was slow. It was a tearjerker, but they thought it would be big, so I guess it was. It's a big song. I know it mostly for us using it during our St. Jude radiothons.
Yes.
So, but as a single, I forgot. Number 18, all the way down at 18, George Strait, Unwound.
Oh, wow. It's hard to... I mean, George had 60 number ones.
Yeah, we're talking about debuts, though.
I know, yeah.
And so, I mean, it's a good song. But
I guess if the guy's had this kind of career, which is done okay, I guess that was a good debut song.
And you're allowed to put him on the list?
Yeah.
Okay. Faith Hill, Wild One.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Big hit. I think we interviewed her right when that song came out.
Yes.
Fawned all over her. She came in studio and we were like, oh, hey, how you doing?
Yes.
She was super sweet. Johnny Cash, Cry, Cry, Cry. And then that brings us to number 15 on the list, Miranda Lambert, Me and Charlie Talkin'.
Oh, I remember that. If it's still not in a set list, I don't view that as a monster song or a great debut, because there's artists that had a song that went, if it's big, it's in their set list.
Yeah, I mean, I love Miranda. I think she's got a ton of great songs. Would I call this one of the top 25 debut singles ever? No. I would not. I don't even think I'd put this on the list.
I'm with you.
Now, here's the one when we talked about, trying to match that initial success when you come out too hot. Gretchen Wilson, Redneck Woman.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That song was a monster.
So huge. And you must be so torn, because on the one hand, you're like, I'm so happy. Look at the success I'm having. But because I'm Larry David, I would immediately be going, well, that's it. My career's over. I'm never going to be able to match this.
Yeah, because how do you follow that up? I mean...
And she came back with Here for the Party, which was another big hit.
Yeah, but there was another song. I mean...
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
So I would not want to be in those shoes necessarily. Number 13, Luke Bryan, All My Friends Say.
Love the song, but I don't know if I'd put that in. I guess for a debut song, it was what I was saying. It was a top 20. It kind of put him on the map. But what he's really known for, if you ask anybody in his camp, when was Luke Bryan like what was his debut on the scene.
Yeah.
They say CMT awards his Shake It performance.
Oh, Country Girl Shake It. And that was a ways into his career.
Yeah. They say that was the moment that everybody was like, I know who Luke Bryan is. So that's what I would say.
For me, here's my problem with Luke. And I like Luke. He's a nice guy and he's doing great. And I wish him nothing but good things. I just find most of his songs so forgettable. And I don't mean that necessarily that it's like they're just bad.
There's artists like that. I mean, they all have them.
Yeah. I mean, you can put Aldean on that list. I mean, every song kind of just, it goes to number one and you hear it for a while and then it disappears. And honestly, I just never think about it again.
I think they get in a cycle. The big artists, the ones that hit a different stratosphere, it gets in a cycle. I mean, Paisley, Alan Jackson, they all went through it where it's like, oh, yeah, that song went number one. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Alabama.
Yeah.
We talk about it. I mean, there's people will talk about these massive hits they got, but radio plays 6 of them because Hometown Honeymoon, TLC, Reckless. You know, you start thinking about Once Upon a Lifetime, all those. You're like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that because they're just cranking them out so fast.
Yeah. Tar Top.
Yes. That wasn't a number one, but yes.
No, I know. So, anyway, So all my friends say, I mean, it's a good song. I'd put it on this list. I don't know if I would put it in top 15.
Yeah.
Personally. That's just me.
I'm with you on that.
Got to talk about Garth all the way down at number 12. Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old.
Great song. I think it's a good debut song.
I thought it was a great single. I mean, I have a special place in my heart for that song because Garth Brooks was my first radio interview ever.
I know that. How crazy is that? Like your first or second day, wasn't it?
Well, I had been working at this radio station. I was in college, and I was doing overnights at this country station, and I'd been doing that for 3 or 4 years. And then finally, they say, "Hey, we're putting you on afternoons," and I was super stoked. I was really excited. My first day, I'm already nervous because I've never done a show during the day. The sun's never been up during my show, and I was like, "Okay, this is awesome." And the PD came in and threw me a little, publicity pack and said, "Hey, so there's some new guys coming in. We're not even playing the single, so you're going to talk to him. He's playing a show tonight in town."
And I know that PD was super nice and a cool PD, but it's so frustrating in radio.
PD is program director. Yes. They're the ones responsible for what goes on the radio.
When they come in and go, there's some new artist here, and they throw it out. It's like Jimmy Kimmel had a friend of his on that he had come out that's a program director in Palm Springs that wouldn't let Taylor Swift in the building when she was going on her radio tour to perform because she hadn't had a hit and she was a kid. And he said, "I ain't got time for you." And Taylor didn't forget it.
I know, she wouldn't.
And they had Taylor call him or something on the Jimmy Kimmel show. And he was like, "Ha, ha, ha, yeah. Oh, yeah." And it's like, be nice to everybody because the same people you pass on the way up or the same people you pass on the way down, that applies to any job.
Sure. And he was so kind. Garth was great. He seemed a little nervous too because it was his first radio tour, but he was giving and fun and funny. And years later, when he was a superstar, we had him on, and one time I reminded him about who I was and what the show was, and he was very cool about it. But I said, the thing I like about you is you are no different during this interview than you were during that interview. You're a multimillionaire now, but you're still cool. You're still fun. You still give. And he's just awesome.
The only difference was he had to have a crew of people pick him up and take him to his car because he was wearing solid gold boots.
He could afford, how many pairs of solid gold boots, I wonder, could he afford? He could fill a closet with those things. So anyway, yes, I see why this song would be as a top debut. Number 11. This might be debatable. Maren Morris, My Church.
That song was big on Music Row and Broadway. Like all the bars were playing it. But as a radio hit, was it a hit?
I mean, it got played. I don't know exactly where it ended up on there. I think that was more of an industry thing. Everybody was so excited about what she was doing. I didn't really love that song that much. Would I call it a top 11 debut country single of all time?
I don't know if I'd call it a top debut, but it put her on the scene. I guess I should say she's a star. And
sure, no. I mean, I like 80s Mercedes wasn't even really a hit, and I love that song.
Yeah, that's a good song.
And I like this one. So anyway, I don't know if I'd put that high on the list. Brad Paisley, Who Needs Pictures?
Yeah. Why not? I'm indifferent.
I mean, again, he's one of those artists. He had so many songs, they start kind of running together. But if you go back, I mean, early on, he played one of our first golf tournaments for St. Jude and was very kind at that point.
He played 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
Him and Keith Urban.
But the first one had to be around this time.
Yeah.
We asked him if he was going to the ACM Awards, and he's like, why would I go?
Yeah.
I'm not going to win anything. I'm not nominated. I'm going fishing. Yeah, that was when he was still kind of a bright-eyed young man before he got so jaded. And so I don't know if I'd put that in top 10 personally, but it's a good song. This one, I can't believe it's not a little higher on the list, actually. Number 9, Zac Brown Band, Chicken Fry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that just is absolutely what we're talking about here. That song was actually done by someone else. I want to say the Derailers. I forget the name of the band, but there was a band that was putting them out. or putting that song out, and then he decided at the last minute, no, I want to put this on my album because I feel like it's going to be a monster, and he took it away from him. They'd already sent it to radio.
Wow.
Asked radio to stop playing it, and then he sent his version out, and of course it was a monster hit.
It's good that he trusted his gut. Here's the thing. If it's your debut single, and now all these years later, it's still a song that you know you're probably going to play in your encore if you want to, that's a big song.
Yep.
So that's on the list for sure. Trisha Yearwood, she's in love with the boy.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you not include that on this list? I think it's well placed. Toby Keith should have been a cowboy.
I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that was the most played radio song of the 90s in the country format.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I would agree.
Yeah, that big monster song, and then he followed it up with so many hits after that too, so that's really good. Number 6, LeAnn Rimes, Blue.
You know what? I'm sorry, going back to Toby.
Yeah.
Toby, on that song, we saw him at a seminar years ago talking about that song, and I think he said that he played that when he got to Nashville for a couple of radio executives or record label executives, and they said, that's not a hit. And then they told him to go get better songs, and he came back. But that and 3 other songs that were all hits that he had were on that tape. He played them, and that was the most played song of the decade, and he was told point blank by a pretty powerful person, not a radio hit.
Look, here's the thing, and I don't care who you are, I don't care how high up the ladder you are, if you are a CEO or whatever, everybody's wrong sometimes, and everybody misses songs. I mean, if you went back and looked at the songs that have been missed by people who are in charge of that, I guarantee you could put together an album that would blow people's minds.
And I can tell you right now, I've heard that that's the case, and when I'm wrong about something, when that day happens,
okay, I
promise to be humble and apologize.
Just you uttering the word humble, I call BS immediately on that. All right, so LeAnn Rimes, Blue. What do you think about that? Top debut of all time?
It was a big debut, and I mean that's the first thing that pops in my head when I hear her name.
Okay, well let me ask you.
And she was a kid singer.
That's my thing. Let me ask you this: if she hadn't had the novelty of being a kid,
absolutely not. Wouldn't have been a hit.
I agree. I mean, it just wouldn't have been the same. I mean, and she can sing, no doubt about it. But I like One Way Ticket, which came out after that, way more than Blue. Blue comes on and it's like, ugh. You can't help but say, well, that little girl sure can sing. But it's not a song I ever want to hear in my playlist.
The only thing, she's always been nice to us. The only thing I really remember about her was when she was that age, San Diego, at a naval station, we were introducing her
Street.
Before Alan Jackson.
Mm-hmm. I think Emilio was opening for her.
Yes, Emilio opened up, played Ain't Talking About Love by Van Halen. Awesome.
Yep.
And her dad grabbed us and said, okay, on her encore, after we walked off the stage, after we introduced her and she started singing, and he goes, okay, I'm going to hand you guys the mic, and I'm going to tell you this, and you guys are going to go out and go, we can't let her leave. Nobody wants her to leave. We all love her too much, and you guys are going to get everybody hyped up. And Tony goes, we're not hype men. And I said, we're going to be gone by the time she's through singing. And he was like, what? He goes, y'all aren't staying for the show? And we're like, no, we got to get up at 3 a.m. We're out of here.
I mean, we used to make it a game. We'd introduce an artist and see if we could be in our cars and leaving before the artist got on the stage.
Yes.
And many times we did well.
Yes, we did. And George Strait helped us because he opened with Heartland one time, which was like a minute intro. So it gave us time to get outside.
Are we a little jaded? Maybe. Okay, so moving into the top 5. Are these the top 5 best debut country singles of all time? Billy Ray Cyrus, Achy Breaky Heart.
Absolutely.
It's a career maker.
I mean, this guy's had a heck of a career, always staying somehow visible and in the scene, whether it's acting, singing, movie, whatever. But that song is what he is known for.
They shot him out of a rocket with this song to launch his career.
Yep.
And come on. He, even with the success of this thing, and you can say what you want to about it now, but it inspired a line dance, millions of copies sold. People love this song. They just don't like to admit it now because it's not cool. Without that kind of a launch, he probably wouldn't have had the career he has.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it was a monster song.
Yeah. Number 4 on this list, Brooks and Dunn, Brand New Man.
Oh, one of the best intros to a song ever. Love that song.
And here's the beauty of Brooks and Dunn. I believe they could have released just about any song that Ronnie sang, and it would have been big because he just had that voice that was unlike anything else at that time. So, I mean, they were just that good.
And Kix has the sizzle.
Yeah, for sure. Nice guy. Number 3, and it pains me to say that I think this is correct placement because Florida Georgia Line, Cruise.
Another monster song. I mean, that is one of those songs that if you went through the country format by decades, that's an iconic song of that decade. Yeah, I mean that's an Islands in the Stream type song. I mean,
and it held the record for a long time. The longest week, number 1, and the whole thing.
I literally was on Broadway one night when that song was at its peak, and any bar you walked into would be playing it. And I had some friends from out of town, and we would walk in, and I swear, I think it was Tootsie's. We were walking out because the stage was right there, and they had just got finished playing Cruise, and I hear someone go, "Play Cruise," and the guy goes, "I just played it." And he goes, "Here's 50, play it again." And they were like, "Okay." And they played it twice in a row. I mean, that's how big that song was. People were just like, "Play it again."
Yeah, and even I'm, admittedly not a huge fan of their music, but I do give them credit. They were able to take something so big and still have hit after hit after hit. So they found a way to make it work.
Yep.
So kudos to them for that. Top 2, Taylor Swift, Tim McGraw.
I'd agree with that.
I like Taylor Swift. Would I put this in the top 5 best debut singles? For me personally, I probably wouldn't.
I don't put it. I'm viewing it as she doesn't sing that in concert. I don't think anymore.
No, I wouldn't think so.
But I just know that was a song that put her on the map with everybody. I remember that first ACM or CMA awards where she walked up to Tim while she's singing it, and
it certainly was well thought out.
Yes,
I'll give them that.
It was a brilliant plan.
So what do they consider the number 1 best debut single? They say Blake Shelton, Austin. I don't agree with this. There are so many other ones, even on this list, that are bigger songs than that. I mean, Cruise, Achy Breaky Heart, I would put those 2 ahead of this. I love the song.
I guess it's because he's had such a long, good career.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, it went to number 1. Spent 5 weeks there, so I mean, it was a big hit. And
I remember him calling in to argue. We were arguing over was it Austin the place or Austin's person or something. I forget what our argument was, but that was the first time we ever spoke to him.
Okay, yeah.
And we loved it because he was funny and we were giving each other crap. And
yeah, so it's a great song. I'm not sure if I'd make it number 1, but what's crazy to think about this? Think about the names that aren't on this list. The gigantic stars: Dolly Parton,
yeah,
Tammy Wynette, Loretta Lynn, some of the older ones, George Jones, Conway Twitty, all those legends. It just goes to show back in the day, debut singles, it didn't work necessarily that way. You might have had to put out 4 or 5, maybe even 6 songs before you got noticed.
And back then, 3 or 4 artists would do the same song at the same time.
It was crazy. It was Thunderdome.
Yeah.
So that's who they say. What would you say? Make sure Alan Jackson not on this list.
Oh, that's surprising because was it Chasing That Neon? I don't know what his first album was.
I can't remember what the first song was. But anyway, just some big names left off. For your money, what are your favorites? A debut country single. You may have to do a little research to find it, but we invite you to drop that in the comments. We would love to see what you think. Now, get these off. Let's talk about what's going on in life. It's only been a few days since we talked to you last. Kris, what's going on?
Nothing. Next.
All right, back to me. Same.
We went to Nashville the other day, and I babysat Bailey while Rach went in and wrote a song that they're pitching to. I don't know if I can say who they're pitching it to, but they wrote a song for somebody, and she recorded some vocals for an album, and I walked up and down Music Row with Bailey.
Nice. That's a nice way to spend a day.
Yeah, it was fun, and then went over and saw a friend and just talked about the industry. Got a little bit of gossip here and there, but nothing major.
Okay.
But it was Music Row. There's not much left of it. It was a little sad.
That's even if you aren't in the industry, if you visit Nashville, even since we moved there, when we moved there, I think in 2009, the changes are immense.
And when we say changes, it used to be like all houses for Writers Row, where people would just buy a house and it'd be these little postage stamp yards and stuff. And that would be somebody's all writers' rooms for a publishing company or something. And Rach was just going, they put condos there. She goes, we used to hang out there on Friday nights after we'd get through writing. We would all meet there. And like her and Brothers Osborne and, some of those other people that are a bit John Party, those folks at that time when she first got there were all in that scene like, hey, let's all go hang out over here. And one of the writers, and I can't remember his name right now, and I apologize. I'll make it up to him at some point. But
well, the great thing is by the time this airs, we'll figure out who it is and we'll put it up on the screen.
Slater, I think's his name. And he plays piano, and I guess he would go somewhere every Friday night, some club that nobody knew about, and all the writers and stuff would show up and sing and just hang out, and those places are gone now.
Well, they're destroying the history of what made Nashville great. I mean, and not just like Music Row stuff, but even like that sub shop that was on the corner that's gone and that had been there forever. I mean, it's sad. I mean, and I get it, places have to grow, but at what cost? And it's just such a shame to see that. But so then now tell us, you came back home and you got some skunk-eyed served up to you.
So I was dropping Lily off at school, and my daughter's the best there is, period. Maybe you could say sometimes she takes her time with things.
Okay. I like how you're setting this up.
And so we're getting out of the car and the school drop off, and there's nobody behind us. So I pull right up to the sidewalk where she gets out, and she's unzipping, and I'm like, oh, here's your lunch. And she unzips her backpack, which is 80 pounds. How these kids haul these around, I don't know. But she's putting everything in and, taking her time. And then I see a lady behind me in the rearview mirror has pulled up, and she just does one of these. And I'm not the guy to do that to, but I ignore it, because I got Lily. And then the lady, her kids go ahead and jump out and take off in. And there's plenty of room. So she comes around me. But as she comes around me, I look up and she gives me one of these. And I was like, wow. Boy,
it'd be different if if it was a narrow drop off and she was trapped behind you and couldn't get out. But I mean, and I get it. There are rules to drop offs, and you do want your kids to get out quickly and move on. I mean, we used to pull it like parachuters. I would slow down, and everybody would just dive out and roll on the grass. But
tuck and roll.
Yeah, that's not welcome anymore. Apparently, people are so impatient, and I'm guilty of that sometimes. I mean, if the light turns green, I give you about a second and a half, and then I tap the horn.
Oh, I'll tell you something we're doing. We started that National Treasure TV series.
See, I didn't even know this was a thing. I missed this.
Yeah, well, I am waiting for the Nicolas Cage Part 3 movie they're making because so far I'm only 2 episodes in.
Who's airing it? What platform is it?
Disney Plus.
Oh, okay. I don't have Disney Plus.
So it's Harvey Keitel's in the first episode, and he leaves a clue for these kids.
Oh, it's kids?
It's almost like a Goonies. Like they're either in college or high school or whatever, and this girl wants to be in the FBI's her dream, and she can like look at a picture and pick out 50 clues in 10 seconds and go, wait a minute, there's more to this. And it's just like, okay. And I get it. It's National Treasure. It's like, I don't want to be that guy that's watching Terminator going, oh, he could never lift that.
Well, but I mean, but it sounds to me too, like obviously they're going for a younger audience, and that's not you. And they've changed it to a young lady being the lead, which I love. So maybe they're trying to appeal to young women.
Yes, absolutely agree with all that. We even said that.
Did Lily watch it with you?
She loves it. So we're 2 episodes in, and I'll finish it. But it's not terrible, but it's just not fantastic.
Yeah, well,
like Wednesday was fantastic. And as
an old pro at being a dad of daughters, I can tell you that there are times that you're going to want to spend time, watch some of the things they're watching, and sometimes you win. Wednesday happens, or a Pixar movie. Those kind of things are almost always a good thing. But then there are going to be times when your kids are really into Pokemon, and they want you to take them to see the Pokemon movie, and you do. And I'm just throwing this out there. Like, I'm not saying this happened to me. And you go in and they show a little short movie beforehand, and you fall asleep during that, and you wake up and go, all right, movie's over, let's go. And they say, no, Dad, that was just the short. The movie hasn't started yet. Or maybe when they're in their teens, they really get into the OC, and they really want you to watch that with them. I'm just saying, this probably isn't so bad.
Okay.
It could be worse.
Now I look forward to the next episode.
It could always be worse. That's why I'm here to remind everybody. And if you think things are going bad, it can always be worse.
I'll tell you this about National Treasure. Catherine Zeta-Jones is in it.
Really?
So she's in Wednesday, and I just saw a movie she's in, too, that's out. So, she's on a big comeback.
A rebirth for Catherine Zeta-Jones.
She's on a major comeback.
Okay, thank you for that. I have not traveled anywhere or really done anything, but I have watched a lot of TV because that's what I do in my spare time, listen to music and watch television. I used to read books. Usually, I keep a book in my Kindle on the nightstand, and I read like a chapter a night, so it takes me forever to get through a book.
I didn't read when reading was cool.
So we watched, and you've already seen it, The Pale Blue Eye.
Yes.
On Netflix. Loved it. It's creepy and ethereal, and it's everything you would want in a movie like this, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
and I thought the kid from Harry Potter was brilliant as Edgar Allan Poe.
I had no idea that's who it was, and then I dropped that nugget on Lily and Rachel and blew their mind.
Yeah, it was very good. And then we also, as I said, I would be watching it. We checked out that first episode of The Last of Us on HBO, the post-apocalyptic thing based on the video game, and everything I read about it or had read about it going in said, man, this is one of the best video game adaptations ever. It's great. And we watched the first episode, and I loved it. I'm in. I definitely have a lot of questions. It's much like any other post-apocalyptic thing you'd see with zombies, except the way that the virus, or what it is and how it transfers. I'm anxious to see more about that because it's definitely different.
Okay.
So I'm curious. And then there's also, again, you may already know this. I didn't play the video game, so I didn't know. But there's this kid, and something about her. I don't know what it is yet. I think she might be the cure. I can't tell.
Okay.
But we'll see what happens. First episode was great. Really enjoyed it. And then we were looking for something. We have a habit. We like to watch series during the week, and then we watch movies on the weekend.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know why that is. It's just
just your thing.
A thing we've gotten into. It's our rhythm. So we're probably still going to try Kaleidoscope, the heist thing we talked about.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can't pull the trigger. But I've been reading good things about this 1899. Have you heard of that? It's
the Prince song.
That's 1999.
Oh,
You're off by 100 years.
Sorry, just missed it.
I got news for you. If 1899 is anything like this show, you do not party in 1899.
Gotcha.
It's dismal and horrible.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same guys that made the.
I've been to some of those company parties.
the series Dark, which was a really big deal on Netflix a year or two ago. I can't remember. I'm not going to get into it. It's a period piece. Obviously, it's very creepy. I almost gave up about 15, 20 minutes in because it is slow.
Oh, I'm out then.
And I was like, I just don't. And even Katie said, "Are you even into this?" And I said, "No, let me try. So I refocused, and I'm glad I did because the last 20 minutes, chills, edge of my seat. Ooh, very creepy.
Okay.
And it's eight episodes. So unless something really bad happens, I think we'll hang in and check it all out. But be warned if you're going to try it. You hear a lot of good things about it, but it is a plodding pace.
Okay.
That would be my probably only negative. This is not a movie or a piece of entertainment, but it is important to us, and we're just tacking it on this personal end because it's personal to us as well. A woman here in East Tennessee who was one of our TK1s, which, as we've explained before, just people who are really devoted to the show, was killed by her husband.
Allegedly, we have to say that, but I mean, it's pretty much a fact. I mean, he called the police and said, "Hey, I did this."
It does not look good. So let me grab a little bit of information here. Okay, so as you can see here, there she is, Jennifer, and she lives in an area that is near another one of our biggest TK1s.
Yeah, David.
TK1 David, he told us about this, and the headline was basically, "Man arrested in Jefferson County after killing wife," according to the sheriff.
And I recognized her immediately. She always comments on our social media, and she's been a part of the shows, and it broke my heart. And then it breaks my heart when anybody gets murdered.
Well, it's obviously terrible.
But if you look at her last post,
yeah, here you can see here she shared a post from All the Signs of Abuse. Breaking news, you're not struggling to leave the toxic relationship because you're in love. You're struggling because you're trauma bonded and your brain is addicted to the hot and cold abusive behavior. To know that was probably one of her last posts before this happened to her is terrifying and heartbreaking.
Our thoughts, of course, are with that family, but we just want to tell anyone that if you're in a toxic relationship,
an abusive relationship,
do what you have to do, but get out, find help, and we'll throw a number up you can call. And if you have a friend that's going through something like this and you don't know what to do, call that number and ask for advice.
There is help out there. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of reaching out and getting it. It's very similar, I guess, when you see these stories of domestic abuse, they remind me of stories of mental illness or emotional problems because you don't necessarily know what's happening in that person's life. You may not realize. You can see little signs, but you really have to be looking for them. And it's just another one of those examples of doing everything you can to get out of a dangerous situation. And we know it's easier said than done so many times. I mean, I understand.
Well, people usually distance themselves. I've talked to some people that have been in toxic relationships and their friends distance themselves like, ooh, I don't want to make it worse or get involved. Reach out and ask if they need help. And if they need help, figure out how to help them.
Yeah, here's the number. This is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 24/7. They have English, Spanish, 200 plus other languages available through interpretation, so you can do that. 800-799-7233. You can also text them. You text START to 88788, and again, you can see that information there. Thehotline.org is their website. If you or someone you know is in a situation here, please start taking steps and get out of there. I'm sure this young lady knew she was in a bad spot, and you keep telling yourself you're going to do something, and she waited one day too late. So, not to be a big downer there, and then we'll roll on to another quick story. Certainly not like that, but another kind of sad story. David Crosby, music legend, passed away.
I mean, he is a legend. He's up there.
I've never been a big Crosby, Stills, Nash fan.
No, neither am I.
But I do admire their talent, and I have like their best of on a record, and there's a lot of good songs on there. My favorite song by them is one that came later in the 80s, Southern Cross. You remember that song?
Oh, yeah, vaguely. I remember that.
I think it's because I was a teen when it came out. But we thought just very quickly, because we're believers in, especially for younger people who may not know these artists, given a little bit of information, I would say anytime an artist like this who's been around, who's a legend, passes away, dive in a little bit.
Yeah.
Go on Apple Music or Spotify, wherever you listen to music, and check out a few of the best ofs. You never know what you might discover.
Yeah, and you might go, wow, because most of these people influence the people you're listening to.
There's some great music back there, and I love listening to new music too. I mean, I'm obsessed with churches right now, and Lexi, my oldest, has got me
the chicken place.
No, some other people too. So I love keep staying fresh, but I will always love the old stuff. Here's a few things you may not have known about David Crosby. If you're our age or older even, you know who he is, but maybe you didn't know this. He was a Bird, and if you don't know what that is, the Byrds were a band that were way back in the day, and that's kind of where he got his start. I didn't know this. His father helped make High Noon.
The movie?
A classic Western from like the 50s. I guess his dad was a famous cinematographer.
You know, I don't know if it's in there or not, but the one I know is, and I'm not 100% on this, so we'll have to do a deep dive and Google it, but I think he is the first Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member to have 2 different livers inducted.
Okay.
Like he before he went in, he had his old liver, and then he got his new liver, and he was inducted in as like a solo artist or something.
He did get a new liver. That's you're joking. That's possible.
I know.
Did he ever have to go back and get a second new liver?
No, I think his took.
His took, okay.
Yeah, like I think he cleaned up his act after he's like, okay, y'all give me another shot. He wasn't Larry Hagman, who got like his new liver, and the next week they see him at the bar, and he's like, got to break this one in.
Oh, man. I mean, have some respect. Somebody gave that organ up for you. Man.
That was the first time in my life, I believe, that I saw somebody that I immediately went, I bet they use their celebrity status to move up the list a little bit.
If you're of a certain age, you're like, celebrity status? Who the hell's Larry Hagman? Sorry.
I'm talking about Crosby.
Oh, Crosby. Okay.
Larry Hagman would never do that.
Yes, he had scruples. I didn't know this. Everybody has something that inspires them. Almost, if you're, especially, I would say a musician, you loved somebody, and they made you want to do what you do. The Everly Brothers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where he got in. He heard harmonies, and that was his thing. He wanted to be like them. This one I thought was pretty good. This is not directly about him. It's just something he witnessed. I had never heard this rock and roll story. It's pretty good. So if you know the Doors,
yes,
classic rock band. If you've heard of Janis Joplin, legendary, passed away way before her time. Well, sort of Jim Morrison for that fact. They were at a party one time, I guess, and David Crosby was there, and he said Jim Morrison told Janis Joplin he didn't think she could sing the blues. And she did not take that well at all.
Oh, really?
And when I say didn't take it, most people, you didn't take it well, you get upset, maybe you say a few choice words. No, she picked up a bottle of Jim Beam and cracked it over his head.
Ouch. That'll hurt.
So you don't have a chance anymore, but I guess you don't say a cross word to Janis Joplin.
Nope.
One thing you couldn't say, I bet you can't break a bottle of Jim Beam over somebody's head, because she already did it.
Yep.
So kudos to her for that. And then there was some movies that David Crosby was in. We had to look it up. We didn't realize this. He was in Hook.
Really?
Look at this picture. I mean, he looks like a pirate.
Yeah.
That's barely even made up.
I was going to say, that was just him coming in for that was before makeup. He just rolled in.
That's just what he looks like. And he's also in the movie Backdraft. Remember that movie?
Oh, great movie. De Niro and Ron Howard directed it. Yeah.
Yeah. William Baldwin.
Yeah. One of the Baldwins.
Yeah, is in there. He's a hippie who comes out in front of when they flash back.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a shot of him there. So who knew? Anyway, rest in peace, rest in love, David Crosby. Sorry to see that music legend go. Happy Lunar New Year.
What is that?
Actually starting tonight. Now, it used to be called, and I still think from what I understand, because I try to read up on this, I think it's appropriate to call it Chinese New Year, which is what for a long time it was called. It is Lunar New Year because it is based on the cycles of the moon, so it doesn't fall on the same day every year. It varies depending, and that's each of these years. It's a different animal. Well, if you've gone to a Chinese restaurant, the menu plate they put down always shows all the animals on it.
Never looked at it. I go in, I get orange chicken, that's it.
Okay. Anyway, for everybody else who looks down at the table to see what's on there, you probably have seen the placemat. That kind of explains all the animals. But just a couple of quick things, because I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know how it started, how it works, who celebrates, and obviously this is a thing for China. And as there are people living all over the world who are from China, they would celebrate this. It lasts, I think, for 15 days, and there's a lot of celebration, a lot of things you're supposed to do, not supposed to do.
Like?
The big one I thought that was interesting was, so tonight, hopefully it's not too late. Hopefully we're going to stop you. You're not supposed to shower, I guess, on the first day of Lunar New Year.
Why?
Because it's believed that if you do that, you're washing away your good fortune for the year. You're washing off all the things that will bring you good fortune and happiness in that coming year.
Whatever. Now, I do know that you're not supposed to go in the woods during the lunar.
Really?
Yeah, because if you get a tick, you're a lunar tick.
Okay. So now we have to explain what just happened. So
I like bad jokes. That's what just happened.
Oh yeah, well, we love those. But then the second face of the old man that you saw, that was Mr. Roper from a show called Three's Company.
Yes.
And he would do that during the show. Like he would crack these terrible jokes and then he would look at the camera like that. That was his thing. So you just got ropered.
Yes, and that I would like to make that a standard feature on the show so that everybody that doesn't watch every show has no idea why we're showing Norman Fell every week.
Although I think most people are just going to go, who's this old man? Why is he smiling like that?
Because he's hilarious and he's Mr. Roper.
It's kind of like getting rickrolled, except 30 years previous.
Love it. That's what we're going to do. We're starting this as a trend, folks.
We're Roper rolling people.
Everybody must Roper roll somebody in the coming week.
I guess that's a thing now. Okay. If you're jumping on TikTok all the time, and thanks to all of you new followers on our TikTok, we appreciate it. There's been a trend going around, and anytime I see something that involves like science or doing something to your body, I'm always grain of salt until I look it up. And this was one that kind of blew my mind. I don't know what fungal acne is exactly. I'm not going to get into the science of it.
Sounds awful.
It's basically the kind of stuff that's like under your skin, and it's really hard to treat. And there's been a thing going around on social media where they say you can actually use dandruff shampoo to treat it. And I did what anybody with a brain in their head does. I started looking things up to see if that was true. And it is. Dermatologists say yes, there actually is some ingredient in dandruff shampoo can actually help treat fungal acne.
Okay. So
if that's something that afflicts you and you've been seeing this online and you, like normally us, are too lazy to Google, it's a thing. It's real. Dermatologists say you can do that. Not super dangerous. As with anything, like they say in the commercials, I would consult my own doctor before I started trying something like this.
Fungal acne sounds like a terrible band name.
If you want to make sure people don't want to come see you.
You going to see Fungal Acne tonight? Oh, they're playing out the Mill and Mine. It's going to be great.
Definitely a punk band for sure. Okay, and that brings us to our last story, and this is a big one. They've been warning us for a while now. Netflix has said, hey, man, we're going to crack down on password sharing. We're losing millions of dollars. And it's been a couple of years, I think, now that it's been floating around. Yeah. But apparently the time is upon us. They say this is it, early 2023, they're going to start doing this. So let's share with you what we know. Now, first off, if you don't do this, I would be shocked.
Okay.
Yes, there is one of my kids uses my Netflix password. I think she also has our Amazon password for watching stuff on there. So it's going to be a whole new world for her. I'm sure she's already.
They need to come up with a family plan where you can let a kid in college have it or something.
Well, I think they do intend to do that. So let's dive in here because you know how it goes. You hand it off to people and they use it, and obviously that's money that Netflix could be making. And I can't say that I blame them for doing this. It hurts, but they're a business. You're in business to make money. So they announced that this is going to start happening, and so password sharing will be made unavailable probably before March, and it's going to restrict simultaneous use of a Netflix account beyond households. Now, they said they are going to focus on pushing the paid sharing option. They have an option there where you can do a paid sharing where you pay a price, and then people who are outside your household can still share your account.
Okay.
And then they're also going to be pushing a lower-priced subscription plan that has ads. So they're finding ways, hopefully to help people.
I don't mind those when they do the ads before.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll start that, then get everything set up and take a couple minutes and the ads can run. And then when I sit down, it's like ready to go. If they're doing it during the thing, I'm out.
It's challenging. I mean, we're so spoiled now, because we have the cheap Hulu plan. So we have, ads. So I don't watch a lot of stuff on Hulu because I am so spoiled by everything else I watch. And I think back to a time when we were watching regular television, it was more commercials than anything. It's like, and you couldn't pause television.
Well, I mean, network television, I think I want to say 21 and a half minutes for sitcoms. So if you're watching a half-hour show and you've made your time to be there, you're going to see 21 and a half minutes, and it may be less than that now. They may have it down to under 20 minutes for a TV show.
Yeah, but I get it. Hey, look, if it's substantially cheaper than the other one, for a lot of people, this might be a good alternative. So, you do what you got to do. So they say our terms of use limit use of Netflix to a household. But we see it's a big change, in their words, for people who share things more broadly. And they're trying to build some features that will improve the experience, that will help people and roll this thing out. Under these new terms, they say a single Netflix account can be used by anybody living under one roof. So they're keeping that household thing to a strict definition.
Gotcha.
And they already tested this in some markets, and they found that it worked well for them, so that's going to be happening. Everybody, for now, can still watch Netflix while you're traveling on any given device. But as far as the one password thing, I'm sure before long, they're going to, you'll have some people out there that will try to find a workaround.
Yeah.
They'll try to find a way to cheat the system. Haven't seen too many of those yet because this hasn't even happened. But be ready in the next couple of months. They are going to do this.
Okay. The only thing I've seen about password sharing that I've liked, and we covered the story, was a lady saw her ex-boyfriend was still using her account.
Oh, I remember this.
And watching Stranger Things. She waited until she could see what he watched. He got up to the finale, and then she cut off his password or changed it. So, which I thought was brilliant.
Sticking it to them. That's fun. You got to have fun with it.
Yes.
So if you're going to do that, that's great. Hey, we appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. We hope you'll come back and continue to watch all the content that's going up.
Please share these posts on your social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything. Share this.
For those of you who watch us here on YouTube and then you're also following us on our Facebook page, we post these shows up there, and I'm seeing an awfully small number of shares.
Yes, please share it.
We really want to keep growing this channel. It's going gangbusters so far. We are in the process of adding new content, more special guests coming to shows very soon in the country world, outside the country world. We're just excited to bring that to you.
And again, if we hope to make a living doing this, we've got to get more subscribers. So we're asking you to share it.
Yeah, and if you're watching our shorts, remember that's
a good spot for Roper.
They have a way you can do super thanks now, where if you really like the content, if you have other short content you'd like to see us do, please shoot us a note. Put it in the description here, or text us on our text line, or email us. It's all in the description. You can see all that information. We really appreciate you watching it, and we want to keep growing and keep doing more of the content you want to see. So thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.